What if the very parts of yourself you've been running from are actually the keys to your power, to your peace, to your purpose? Narration begins. Pause for a moment. Imagine that every fear you've carried, every self-doubt you've tried to silence, and every emotional battle you've endured isn't just a random burden or flaw. What if these weren't problems to be fixed, but invitations, maps pointing toward your most authentic self? Let that sink in, because today we're venturing into one of the most profound and life-altering psychological insights ever uncovered, Carl Jung's theory of the shadow. This isn't just some lofty idea buried in academic philosophy. This is about you, your inner world, your triggers, your projections, your patterns, those quiet emotional reactions that seem to come from nowhere. By the end of this journey, you'll not only understand what your shadow is, you'll discover how it holds the secret to unlocking your potential, your healing, and your personal transformation. And trust me, what's waiting at the end of this journey might just change how you see yourself forever. The foundation of the shadow. Carl Jung, father of depth psychology, taught that the shadow is the unconscious side of ourselves. It's the part we've rejected, buried, disowned. Think about the emotions you were told as a child not to feel. The desires you were told were too much. The thoughts you were taught to fear. They didn't disappear. They just went underground, into the shadow. The shadow contains everything we consider unacceptable. Jealousy, rage, lust, selfishness, fear. But, and here's the paradox, it also contains our raw power, creativity, intuition, and passion. Jung believed the shadow doesn't just hold darkness, it holds unrecognized light. So ask yourself, what part of you have you tried to silence? Is there a voice inside that you've pushed down, convinced it was wrong or dangerous? Your triggers are clues. Here's where it gets deeply personal. Every time you overreact to someone else, every time you feel that sharp judgment, that disproportionate irritation, it might not be about them. It might be about you, or more precisely, your shadow being activated. Jung once said everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. So when someone's arrogance gets under your skin, could it be touching your own fear of being overlooked? When someone's confidence annoys you, is it triggering a buried part of you that wishes to be seen? Our strongest emotional reactions are rarely about the surface. They're reflections of our own unhealed stories. The shadow isn't evil, it's energy. Let's be clear. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's not trying to ruin your life. It's trying to get your attention. Think of it like this. The shadow is a part of your psyche that's been exiled, locked in the basement, ignored. But it still wants to be seen. So it speaks through your dreams, your projections, your relationships. It whispers through anxiety, resentment, envy, and even strange attractions. And the more you deny it, the louder it becomes. It's like holding a beach ball underwater. The harder you press, the more violently it erupts. What if instead of suppressing it, you brought it to the surface, held it in your hands, understood it? How much more peace would you feel if you stopped running from yourself? Real examples of the shadow at work. Imagine a person who constantly brags. You might say they're arrogant, but underneath their bravado might be deep insecurity. That's shadow. Or think about someone who avoids all conflict, always nice, always agreeable. Underneath might be buried rage long suppressed. We all wear masks, but behind the mask is the shadow, and behind the shadow is freedom. Jung called the process of integrating the shadow individuation the journey to becoming whole. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming real. The mythic journey, you're not alone. Every great hero in myth and fiction has faced their shadow. Hercules wasn't just battling monsters, he was battling his own impulses. Luke Skywalker didn't just defeat Darth Vader, he faced the darkness in himself. Why do these stories move us? Because they're mirrors. They reflect our own path to integration. So now the question becomes, are you willing to look inward? Are you ready to stop fearing what you've buried and start listening to it? What might your shadow be trying to teach you? The call to awareness. The first step is awareness. Begin to notice what provokes strong reactions in you. What qualities in others make you uncomfortable? What recurring dreams keep calling to you? These aren't random, they're messages. Next is acceptance. This doesn't mean indulging in destructive behavior. It means acknowledging your darkness with compassion. Saying, I see you, I know you're part of me, and I'm ready to understand why. The shadow doesn't want control, it wants connection. a vision of freedom. Imagine waking up and no longer fearing your flaws. Imagine being fully present with yourself, your anger, your fear, your desire, and not feeling shame. That is power. That is peace. True self-confidence comes not from pretending to be flawless, but from owning your full humanity. What's next? In the next part of this journey, we'll go deeper. You'll learn how to actually identify your shadow traits, how to work with them, and how to turn your inner conflict into inner alignment. We'll explore tools, techniques, and reflections to guide your integration process, and we'll uncover the final revelation that Carl Jung left us, a message that could become the compass for your life. Because the shadow isn't the end of your story, it's the beginning of your truth. So stay with us. You're not just watching a video, you're stepping into a mirror. And what you find there could change everything. Previously that we explored the profound idea that the parts of ourselves we've buried the shadow might actually hold the key to our purpose. Now let's go deeper and uncover how this shadow reveals itself in everyday life, often in the people who irritate us most. Carl Jung introduced a powerful concept known as projection, the heart of shadow work. He argued that when we repress certain traits or emotions within ourselves, we don't eliminate them. They just find new ways to show up. And often they appear in the form of other people. Have you ever noticed how someone's confidence makes you feel small? Or how another person's ambition seems too much, even though deep down, part of you might crave that same drive? That's projection. When we disown parts of ourselves, we start to see them in others, often magnified, exaggerated, and emotionally charged. That discomfort we feel, it's not random, it's a reflection, a mirror held up by the world around us, showing us the aspects of our own psyche that we haven't made peace with yet. Take a moment. Is there someone in your life who consistently triggers a strong emotional response? A colleague whose tone always feels condescending? A friend whose success stings more than it should? A family member whose neediness drains you? Instead of focusing on their behavior, ask yourself, what does this reaction say about me? What am I projecting onto them? This isn't about blame. It's not about guilt. It's about insight. Each projection is a trail marker guiding you to a part of your inner world that's asking to be acknowledged. Jung said it best, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. Let's take this a step further. Jung believed that the parts of ourselves we suppress are not just inconvenient. They're often deeply connected to our unique gifts, talents, and passions. Think about someone who suppresses their creativity out of fear of failure. They may become overly critical of artists or dreamers, but that suppressed creativity, that might be their calling, their path, their purpose. You see, your purpose isn't a treasure buried somewhere out there. It's within. It's uncovered not through searching, but through aligning with your whole self, shadows included. Jung wrote, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. To begin this journey of inner alignment, you need courage and curiosity. That's yourself. What do I fear most about myself? What parts of me have I been told are too much? What dreams did I abandon because someone said they were unrealistic? Write them down. Let them speak. Sometimes all your shadow needs is a voice. One of Jung's most trusted tools for navigating the shadow was journaling. He kept extensive personal journals throughout his life, not just to record events, but to explore his inner world. He also encouraged his patients to document their dreams, because dreams are direct messages from the unconscious. In your dreams, your shadow often appears symbolically as a stranger, a wild animal, or even a chaotic event. Have you had a recurring dream, a nightmare that won't go away, or even a strange symbol that keeps reappearing? These are not meaningless. They're messages, clues, invitations to listen. Ask yourself, what might this image represent within me? What am I being asked to feel, to face, to heal? Let's visualize this. Imagine a painter who only uses light colors, pastels, whites, golds. The canvas is bright, maybe even beautiful, but it lacks contrast, depth, meaning. Now imagine that same painter begins to add in deep blues, shadowy blacks, rusty reds. Suddenly the painting comes alive. It breathes. It tells a story. That's what shadow integration does to your life. It adds richness, realness, wholeness. But make no mistake, integration doesn't mean giving in to every dark urge. It doesn't mean letting anger or jealousy run your life. It means recognizing them, understanding their roots, and transforming them into wisdom. Once you begin to understand your own shadow, something miraculous happens. You start to become more compassionate, not only toward yourself, but toward others. You realize that everyone, no matter how polished or put together they seem, is carrying something hidden. That shared vulnerability connects us. It reminds us that we're all works in progress. The path of shadow work is not quick. It's not easy. It's a lifelong commitment to honesty, reflection, and growth. But the rewards, they're profound. You gain clarity about your purpose. You feel a deeper peace. And most importantly, you become more you. Not the version shaped by fear or societal expectation, but the version that's authentic, rooted, and whole. And here's something extraordinary. Jung didn't believe individuation, the process of becoming your true self, was just for you. He believed that every time a person aligns with their authentic self, it impacts the collective unconscious. It uplifts the entire human experience. Your growth becomes a ripple. When you confront your shadow, you don't just heal yourself, you give others permission to do the same. So where do we go from here? In the next part of this journey, we'll explore practical tools for integrating your shadow into daily life. We'll uncover how this sacred inner work can improve your relationships, awaken your creativity, and bring your life into deeper alignment with your truth. And yes, the most powerful insight is still ahead. So stay with us, because the darkness you have been avoiding might just hold the key to the light you've been searching for. Let's continue this journey. Once you've identified elements of your shadow, those thoughts, traits, and emotions you have long suppressed, the next courageous step is to engage in dialogue. Jung often encouraged his patients to treat the shadow as if it were a distinct personality within them, to externalize it, to talk to it. Sounds unusual. Maybe, but this technique opens a profound space for self-discovery. Picture yourself sitting across from your shadow, not in fear or judgment, but in curiosity. You ask, why are you here? What have you been trying to protect me from? What do you need to feel heard, seen, and valued? This dialogue doesn't require a formal setting. It can unfold during journaling, through quiet meditation, or even during a vivid visualization, where you allow your subconscious to speak freely. You're not talking to a monster, you are talking to a wounded guide, a guardian with good intentions, though perhaps misguided methods. Remember, the shadow is not your enemy. It is part of you, a part that has tried in its own flawed way to shield you from pain, rejection, or vulnerability. And often, when you finally give it space to speak, what it reveals is unexpected. You may discover that the anxiety you carry started from a single moment in childhood when your voice was silenced. Or that your anger isn't dangerous, it's righteous, and it's trying to tell you something important. What once seemed dark begins to look like truth. Now, let's expand the lens. Your shadow doesn't live only inside your head. It plays a powerful, often hidden role in how you relate to others. Think about your closest relationships: romantic, familial, professional. Have you ever found yourself clashing with the same kind of person again and again, or falling into familiar arguments that feel oddly predictable? These repeating patterns are not coincidences. They are signals, clues pointing to unresolved aspects of your shadow. Jung believed that relationships act as mirrors. They reflect not just who we are, but who we're avoiding becoming. When you're triggered by someone else, it's often because they embody a quality you've disowned. Maybe they're too loud, too demanding, too free. But ask yourself, is that really the issue? Or is it touching something unresolved in me? By seeing this dynamic clearly, you move from blame to self-awareness, from reaction to reflection. And here's the transformation. Instead of feeling helpless in your relationships, you become empowered. Every difficult interaction becomes a chance to grow, to integrate, to expand. Let's shift to another realm where the shadow reveals its hidden gifts: creativity. Jung passionately believed that the shadow doesn't just contain our dark side, it also holds the suppressed gold of our untapped talents. It's the raw energy we use to hide our truth. And when we stop suppressing it, that energy becomes fuel. Think of it this way: the energy you've used to bury your fears, doubts, or desires can now become the fire that lights your creative path. Suppressed anger, it can become the foundation of activism, powerful speeches, or passionate storytelling. Hidden envy, it might reveal unacknowledged aspirations you're finally ready to claim. Even a buried desire for attention could become the catalyst for bold self-expression on stage in art or through writing. History is rich with people who transform their inner conflict into outer brilliance. Frida Kahlo painted from her deepest wounds, turning physical pain into visual truth. Martin Luther King Jr. channeled his anger at injustice into a movement that changed the world. Creativity is not decoration, it is revelation. Jung saw creative expression as a sacred channel for individuation, the process of becoming your whole integrated self. He knew that through painting, writing, or even solving problems innovatively, we tap into the unconscious. We give the shadow a voice, a stage, and a mission. So what about you? Are there passions you've left behind because they felt risky? Dreams you've talked yourself out of because they didn't seem practical. These aren't silly whims. They might be sacred calls, echoes of your deeper self asking to be seen, heard, and expressed. As you continue the integration process, you may begin to notice something profound. The traits you once feared in yourself, the ones that felt heavy, embarrassing, or too much, start to shift. Your shame becomes wisdom. Your fear becomes fuel. Your silence becomes expression. And most importantly, you begin to live more fully, more authentically. You don't just exist, you resonate. Here's a vital truth: integrating your shadow doesn't just benefit you, it ripples outward. When you stop hiding from yourself, you show up in the world differently. Overshaping. You're less reactive, more grounded, less afraid of being seen. Your relationships deepen. Your boundaries become clearer. And your presence becomes more magnetic, not because you're flawless, but because you're whole. This kind of transformation isn't loud. It doesn't scream for attention, but it changes everything. You become someone who lives with clarity, with confidence, with purpose. And now we arrive at the threshold of something even deeper. In our next and final chapter, we'll explore the ultimate insight behind Jung's theory of the shadow. A revelation that ties everything together and shows how embracing every part of yourself doesn't just transform your inner world, it unlocks your highest potential. Because your destiny isn't found in perfection, it's found in integration. Stay with us. What comes next could change how you see yourself and your purpose forever. So far, we've seen how your shadow is not your enemy, but a hidden ally offering untapped potential, repressed energy, and the missing link to purpose. Now it's time to uncover the final, most powerful truth of all: your strengths, your passions, even your struggles. These aren't random fragments of your identity. They're part of a larger pattern, a sacred blueprint for how you're meant to contribute to the world. And here's what might surprise you: your shadow is not a barrier on this path. It's part of the path itself. That voice inside you that once whispered, "You're not enough," may one day empower you to help others find their worth. That anger you've battled, it might evolve into a force for justice, for truth, for standing up for those who can't speak for themselves. Jung believed that our wounds, once integrated, become our wisdom. Think about that: the very experiences you've tried to forget may actually be preparing you to lead, to teach, to heal. But here's where it gets even deeper. Jung didn't believe that shadow work was simply about the individual. He believed it had the power to transform humanity. Why? Because when you confront your own darkness, when you stop pretending, blaming, or projecting, you become more compassionate. You start to understand that everyone is carrying something, that their pain, like yours, has a story behind it. Imagine a world where people no longer reacted from their unconscious wounds. A world where we didn't shame others for their shadows, but recognized them as echoes of our own. Fewer projections, less fear, more truth, more empathy. Conflicts would soften, understanding would deepen, and humanity slowly but surely would move closer to collective awakening. This is the hidden promise of shadow work. It's not just personal development, it's a quiet revolution of the soul. So here's the challenge, and it's not easy. Look within. Not just at what you love about yourself, but also at what you've tried to ignore. Ask yourself, what is my shadow trying to teach me? How can I listen to it without fear? What might my struggles be pointing me toward? Maybe it's time to revisit that passion you gave up years ago. Maybe it's time to stop apologizing for your sensitivity, or your intensity, or your desire to be seen. The truth is, your purpose isn't something you achieve. It's something you embody. And you can only do that by embracing all of who you are, not just the polished parts. Let's be honest. This path isn't linear. Integration doesn't happen overnight. There's no finish line where everything makes sense. But every step you take brings more alignment, more freedom, more presence. You stop living from a mask and start living from your core. You become someone who doesn't need to impress, perform, or pretend. You just are. And that kind of wholeness, it's rare, it's powerful, and it's what this world desperately needs more of. Before we close, I want to invite you to reflect out loud if you can. What part of this journey resonated most with you? What insight struck a chord deep within? What questions are still lingering? Share your thoughts in the comments, not just for you, but because your reflection might be the spark that helps someone else begin their journey too. Your courage could be someone else's permission. This conversation doesn't end here. It's the start of something more, a movement toward deeper awareness, deeper authenticity, and deeper connection. So wherever you are on your path, know this: the parts of you that you've feared, denied, or hidden are not mistakes. They're invitations. Invitations to become more honest, more human, more whole. The shadow was never meant to be fought. It was meant to be embraced. Not to dominate your life, but to teach you how to live fully. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter where you no longer fear your flaws, but find power in them. A chapter where you no longer chase purpose, but live it. A chapter where you stop shrinking and start showing up. So thank you for walking this path, for listening, for reflecting. May you continue to explore the depths of who you are. May you find not just peace, but purpose. Not just clarity, but courage. And above all, may you remember you were never broken. You were simply unfinished. Until next time, stay grounded, stay open, and stay true to your whole self.